it's really important to bear in mind one thing, that there is a huge difference not only in the conduct of monetary policy and fiscal policy, but in the spirit of the economic policy that is carried out in the US and in Europe. In the US, you have a very strong choice, which is a choice of keeping the deficit low. It's not only a political choice because of 2012, it's just the idea said by Bernanke that you need some support and you need recovery before you make the correction. In Europe, it's totally different. We make the correction now. We know that it will be costly. We know that we have to go through several years of pain, but then we will have a much better economic situation. So this is clearly what you're seeing here. You can see that over the next two years, deficit in the US will remain low. It will be reduced in Europe, in Germany, and many other countries. It will be painful, so it will have a very negative impact on growth. So in the meantime, the ECB is going to tighten. It's not that much of a normalization of monetary policy. I mean, the ECB wanted to send a signal to the market, but also to the European leaders that it was still sticking to its mandate of inflation. But if you look at the situation of today and compare it to 2008, when the ECB was increased interest rates in the midst or at the beginning of the crisis, it just had the unit labor cost, that is a cost pressure, that is the real cause of inflation, was very strong. Today it's totally different. The job market is a real mess in Europe. Unemployment ratio, especially in the south, is very this is complicated because it's 9% for the area, it's close to 6 for the north, and it's close to 15 to 17 in the south. But on average, the labor market is still very weak, and wage growth is still very weak too. So the ECB will probably tighten once or maybe twice this year. It's something that will not drive the euro that much higher. It will probably increase some difficulties in the south, but it's part of the tightening of the what we call the policy mix. But it's still it won't be going as a market. It seems to be expecting up to 2%. So it leads us to one of those risks that have been said before regarding the ECB. The ECB is increasing risk, and you can see increasing interest rates. So what you can see is that most of the countries that are suffering, that in Spain, Ireland, Portugal, and Greece, are the country where most of the mortgage credits are based on floating rates. So it's clearly not really clever, but one of the reasons the ECB will probably not be able to tighten and normalize that much is that the ECB is still lending a lot of money to banks of here the worst: Ireland, Greece, and Portugal. Spain, as you can see, Spain banks are no longer highly dependent on the liquidity provided by the ECB. So the global outlook in Europe has to be thought in the context of a strong currency. I mean, the euro can go down to 130, but it's still strong. You have fiscal tightening, and you have a monetary policy tightening, which even limited may have an impact on the southern Europe countries. That's the reason why we are not that really pessimistic on the prospect for growth in the eurozone this year. I don't know how much time I have left. Okay, so maybe it's important for all of us to discuss. I won't make a country by country analysis. I will try to think with you about how where the eurozone is going over the next few years, and what should be done to correct the imbalances. So first of all, I will do something which is really politically incorrect for a French company. That is to consider that France is part of the Southern Europe. Some may take it very badly, but I just do the math. I just take the charts and I take current account and fiscal balance. And South-North divide is very easy. If you have a deficit in your current account and a very strong fiscal deficit, then you are part of the South, and then you have the North. I mean, the divide is very strong, but whatever. I mean, France is very in the middle of Europe, so but it's really important to bear that in mind, because if you make a basket with those two countries, you can see how how challenging it is to be a pro-Euro economist or citizen today. So first of all, there are some, I will go and show big differences. There was some difference of growth between North and South over the last 5 years, and the reason is very straightforward. The Northern Europe did not increase its debt load, slightly at the end of it. And you can see that the debt to GDP ratio of households and businesses in the southern country went up from 90 to 155 over less than a decade. So this just what caused the crisis for banks and for in the US, but it's the case for the private sector in Europe. Leverage. So it's really important to bear that in mind too. The crisis of the southern country is not only a crisis of public profligacy, I have a problem with this word, I mean fiscal spending, unrelentless increase in wages of civil servants or whatsoever. It is a case in Greece. It's to a certain extent the case in Portugal, but if you look the case of Ireland and Spain, it's absolutely not the story. The story of Ireland and Spain is this one. Strong leverage in the private sector, strong construction activity, a skewness in the GDP, and just keep in mind that the deficit of, the fiscal balance of Spain and even Ireland were positive up to 2008. So this is really important to see the difference. So the question that lies behind is how those countries of the South can have strong growth without a sharp increase in debt. The other issue that you have, and which is very important, is that this growth of southern country help the northern country to grow, and in some case, such as the case of Germany, to go through a very strong domestic and supply adjustment. Though the outcome is very well known, strong current account in the north and strong current account in the south. Once again, in Europe, before this crisis, everybody was considering that it did not matter, that capital flows were here, and that people were always telling you, it doesn't matter, I mean, who cares about the deficit of Florida or Michigan? Who cares? And the answer is, who cares? Yes, but we should care, because this makes the country poorer, and Spanish people do not go that easily to any other country of Europe and so on. It may change, given that Europe is closing all its frontier by now, but that's another story.